All right, hello everyone. My name is Mike Bechtel. I'm from Prove, a digital identity company that leverages the phone number as a proxy for identity, and I'm here to talk about KYP, Know Your Patient, which is a play off of KYC, Know Your Customer, a common regulation in financial services. So, first of all, does anyone know what KYC is? All right, we got someone. So KYC is, in financial services, regulations and guidelines that require you to verify the identity of the people that you're working with, the customers that you're working with. Anti-money laundering, check terrorist watch lists, etc. So at Prove, we do this for 9 out of the top 10 US banks. So we do this across financial services, and I joined a few years back to start doing this in healthcare. And I thought that we could learn a lot from financial services, given that they're quite a bit more sophisticated in this arena than healthcare. I think we've all been doing online banking for a couple decades. I remember the first time I deposited a check with my phone. I was a little dubious if it would ever arrive. So obviously, post-pandemic here in healthcare, we know that digital is here to stay. We've seen a huge surge in the use of digital tools, and it's become critically important to know your patient, but doing so in a way that's not frictionful, doing so in a way that's not going to create abrasion with your healthcare consumer and actually block access. So by having kind of a streamlined ability to identify your patients, obviously you can better engage them because so much engagement happens today digitally. It's a cost savings measure, I think we all know. It's extensible care when the patient's not right there in front of you. And of course, it improves better patient experiences and outcomes. So let's talk a little bit about some of the, in healthcare, we're beginners at identity resolution or identity management. So let's talk about a few very, quick topics, some trends that we see in other industries that we want to bring forward to healthcare as we really expand the use of digital identity to engage patients digitally. So the first is passwordless authentication. So I think we all are familiar with usernames, passwords. I just actually had some health issues this year. I had to use my patient portal quite a bit. It took me so long to find my username and password for my patient portal. It was a real barrier, and I was able to find it eventually, but actually I think it was probably the 5th time I logged in finally. Okay, this time I really got to get on my computer and figure this out. So you can only imagine how challenging that is for older population that's just now starting to get into the digital age. So the ability to actually have a passwordless authentication, leveraging what's in most of our pockets right now, this encrypted SIM card, is really critical. So it's a trend that's happening. It's happening in other industries, and healthcare is just now starting to hear about it, using that encrypted SIM card and the intelligence within our phones to actually verify us. And kind of to add on the password, username password thing, obviously, passwords are also hacked and highly compromised these days. So when we need that additional factor, leveraging phone intelligence is a trend we're seeing. KBA. KBA stands for knowledge-based authentication. So if I'm sure we're all familiar with this. This is, how much do you owe on your mortgage? What boat did you own in 2012? So these are common questions that today a majority of health systems ask their patients as they set up a patient portal account. It's wrought with friction, and the pass rate, the rate at which someone successfully passes through the process, is actually quite low. It only hovers around 65%. So that means we're blocking 35% of mostly good actors, almost all good actors, from achieving their ID proofing because of these knowledge-based authentication. In addition to the abrasion, the friction with the consumer, it's also not as secure as it used to be. So this information's out in the web, and so these questions are not as secure as they once were. So again, what we're seeing within financial services, and we're actually doing this to several health systems as well, is leveraging Prove's phone intelligence to authenticate and verify someone based on this. But not only just doing the verification, but actually pre-populating the demographic information based on simply the phone number. So you're accomplishing a pre-filled form from an authenticated data source, verifying the identity, and authenticating the user all in one fell swoop. And of course, lastly, all of this is to improve access. So before identity management was really a thing that, you know, is really on the fringes, is more the exception. Okay, people who want to go through this online process, we're going to make them go through these hoops. Today, it's the predominant way that people engage. It's where, you know, everyone expects them to have some sort of digital engagement. So by adding barriers such as knowledge-based authentications or you know, complex usernames and passwords, you're actually reducing access, because most people, a lot of people, will give up. So it's really critical, not just from a cool technical perspective, but also from a perspective of enabling access for the broader population to have a frictionless process. So Prove's been doing this for a couple years now with several health systems. So this is an example of a large health system in the southwest part of the United States that serves over 12 million people. And what they do is they leverage Prove to ID proof people who are registering for the digital front door or patient portal. So again, replacing that old KBA knowledge-based authentication process. This is in addition to someone who may have an access code for an EMR, and based purely on the phone number, what Prove does is looks at the reputation of that phone number. Can we trust it? Are they in possession of the device, which we can do passively? And do they own the phone? And based on that, we can actually pre-populate that information, all the basic demographic information from an authoritative data source. So you're also eliminating the need for the consumer to even have to populate the form. And you know that this information is verified. Putting that through, you know, actually my wife said this to me when I was joining Prove. She's like, that's creepy, I'm not gonna wanna do that. We find that, and the stats there, 95% of consumers actually choose to go through this process. So it's highly popular. It improves that pass rate, so that rate at which people pass through the process successfully passes through that 25% higher than traditional methods. So where it usually hovers around 65%, it's actually closer to 85 to 90%. So within that 10 to 15%, there's probably some bad actors in there, and then other people that aren't able to be verified. And lastly, the reduction in drop-off. So we've seen a 35%, so about a third reduction in drop-off where people abandon the process saying, these are too many forms, I can't get through this process, I don't know what kind of boat I had in 2012, I'm gonna abandon this process, and you maybe do it later, maybe not. So by going through pre-fill, we actually see that reduction by about a third. So I wanted to share just a couple quick trends that we're seeing that are already in place in financial services. We trust it with our money. We should be trusting it within healthcare. And coming out of the pandemic, I know we are seeing a tremendous demand now to making a better consumer digital experience. So please stop by our kiosk, 2812, for more questions. Feel free to scan that QR code for more information, and happy to answer any questions. Thanks so much.